Hi everyone, welcome to episode 2 of the JNU X Labs AR social media pop-up. In this episode, we're going to learn how to do a green screen effect both in our background and on ourselves, which is pretty cool. To start us off, we're going to need to go to focal distance and create a canvas object, which we can do by doing add and going down to canvas. And this is essentially going to act as a container for 2 more objects that we're going to add. So from there, we're going to go onto canvas, right click, go to add, and we're going to go to rectangle. And then we're going to add a second rectangle. These 2 rectangles are basically going to be our foreground and our background. So we can go ahead and rename one, let's say background, and the second one, person. Alright, so next we're going to want to make both the person and the background fill up the entire screen, which currently they're just in this little corner here. So to do that, we can click on one of them. We already have background selected. And we can go over here, and if we click this, we can click fill width. And we can do the same thing for height. And now it's filling the entire screen. And if we go to person, we can do the exact same thing. Now that we've got our rectangle set up, let's actually add our background image that we want to use for the green screen. To do that, we'll go back to background, and we're going to add a material. Go down here and we'll rename this background material so we can keep track of it later. For this, I have an image of Duke dogs on a JMU purple background, so let's go ahead and use that. But you can use whatever image you want. Do something like Venice or Paris or somewhere cool you want to be when you're not in quarantine. So I've gone ahead and selected that, and it's also popped up in our textures down here. Right now you can't see it because we still have our person that's actually in front of the background. So let's go ahead and change that. We're going to need to go over to our person object, and we'll have to add a material to that. So let's go ahead and do that, and we're going to create a new material. And for this, let's call this person material. Alright, now because we're going to actually want our face in front of the background, we're going to need to get the texture as what the camera is recording. So to do that, we'll go over to camera, and we're going to click texture extraction, and that'll basically get that camera feed so we can put it in, on top of the material. So we click that, and now we have this camera texture. So if we go back to person material, and we click texture, and we do this little drop down arrow, you can go ahead and click on camera texture. And that gets my face back on screen. Of course, now we still can't see our background, which is a problem. And that's because right now the camera is taking up the entire screen. It's not cutting out this background at all. So to do that, we're going to need to do a person segmentation, which sounds scarier than it is. So if we go back to camera over here, we can go over to this thing called segmentation, which is right below texture extraction. And if we click it, there's 2 options that pop up, person and hair. And this basically takes just the person part that's moving on the screen, or just the hair. For this case, we're going to do person, so let's click on that. And now we have our person segmentation. Nothing's changed yet, but we have to go back to that person material first. If we scroll down and we click on alpha, we now have this texture option here. And for that, we're going to click the drop-down arrow, and we're going to do this person segmentation mask. And that's basically going to mask the background behind us and only keep the person. And now we have our nice JMU Duke dog background right behind me. Now that we have our nice background, I'm going to show you 2 more small effects we can do with this setup. The first is if you go back over to this alpha tab and you click invert, it's actually going to flip the foreground and the background, and you get this kind of cool silhouette effect going on, which I like. Let's say I also want to do a silhouette but keeping the same background. We can do that too by swapping out the material that's currently showing my face, which is this camera texture. So if we go back to the drop down, we can create a new texture. And I also have this gold version of the Duke dog background, so I'm going to click that. And now I kind of have this weird color inversion thing, which looks pretty sweet. And obviously you don't need to have the same pattern for the 2 to make it work. You can do a bunch of cool things with it. It's all about trial and error to see what looks awesome. As one final note, currently our material for the person is still on the standard shader. And we can get some kind of cool effects if we play around with this. If we go to flat, we get kind of this brighter image, which is nice, and it's more true to form of the actual golden. If we go down to face paint, We also get this kind of cool effect where the Duke dogs are in front of us, and we get this almost like yellow tinted thing in the background. This marks the end of episode 2. Again, feel free to take some time and play around with the settings and try some new things. For our next episode, we're going to be introducing how to use sound, how to trigger actions based on things like raising your eyebrows, and we're going to introduce patches, which is how you program AR filters. See you guys over there.